The storm was eating the world. Snow came down so thick it erased the horizon, turning sky, and ground into one endless, suffocating blur. The wind howled across the open Wyoming plains, battering the old Ford pickup, as if trying to shove it off the frozen road. The headlights caught nothing but spinning white like driving through the static of a broken television. Noah Callahan gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles went bone white. His right hand trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from the familiar ache that came when his mind wandered too close to the past. The heater coughed weakly, breathing out air that was barely warm. On the passenger seat sat an envelope, the one that had upended his already hollow life. Inside a deed, a letter written in neat block handwriting, and a name he hadn't heard spoken in almost 5 years. Sergeant Hank Redford, his old CO, his mentor, his ghost. The truck's tires hit a patch of ice, fishtailing. Noah's heart jerked in his chest as he corrected the rear end, sliding wide before catching grip again. The road ahead vanished, completely swallowed by the storm. He slowed the engine, groaning under the strain. He muttered to himself, voice rough from too many cigarettes and too many silent years. Hell of a last favor, Hank. Middle of nowhere, middle of winter. Perfect. He should have thrown the letter away when it arrived. Should have ignored the lawyer's call. Redford had died of a heart attack months ago, the letter said. In his will, he'd left Noah his only possession, a run-down gas station just off Highway 287 north of Dubois. No reason. No explanation. Just a gift from the grave. Noah rubbed his temple, trying to ease the pulse that always came when his thoughts circled back to Afghanistan. The sun like white fire, the sand in his mouth, the sharp sound of the explosion, the smell of burning metal. Hank's voice over the radio, calm, steady until it wasn't. The storm thickened. He leaned forward, squinting through the windshield, and caught sight of something, a shape barely visible through the blur of snow. A leaning signpost. The faded outline of gas prices, long obsolete. He slowed to a crawl. There it was. Redford Station, or what was left of it. The station crouched in the storm like a half-buried animal. The roof sagged under years of snow. Windows broken, the sign hanging crooked by one rusted chain. The lot was littered with drifts and debris, old tires, a fallen light pole, the skeleton of a fuel pump, frozen mid-collapse. Noah parked near the entrance and killed the engine. The sudden silence hit him like a blow. The world outside was wind and white and nothing else. He sat for a long moment, hands still gripping the wheel. This was supposed to be closure. Instead, it looked like a tomb. He opened the door. The wind punched him in the chest, stealing his breath. The cold was absolute, biting through his jacket like knives. He shoved the door shut against the gale and trudged toward the building. Snow already halfway up his boots. The front door was locked. He tried the handle, it didn't budge. Rusted solid. With a grunt, he slammed his shoulder into it. Once. Twice. The wood splintered. On the third try, it gave way, swinging open with a long, low groan. Inside smelled of dust and time. The light from the doorway spilled across cracked linoleum, toppled shelves, and the outlines of old merchandise left to rot. A few dusty cans still lined the back wall, oil soup, maybe both. A counter stood beneath a long, dead fluorescent fixture. The air was thick, stale, untouched for years. He stepped inside. The wind howled behind him, slamming the door shut. The silence after was almost too much. Noah let out a shaky breath and ran a hand along the counter. The surface left a trail in the dust. For some reason, he whispered, "Well, Hank, I'm here." His voice sounded small in the empty space. He moved through the station slowly, flashlight cutting through the dim. The main room led to a small office in the back filing cabinets, a single cot, a rusted coffee maker. A life paused mid-sentence. He found an old military mug on the desk, the handle chipped, still bearing the faint letters HR. He set it down carefully. That was when he heard it. A sound from the far corner, soft, low, alive. Noah froze. Listened. There it was again, a growl deep and warning. He turned the beam of his flashlight slicing through the dark. Two amber eyes reflected back at him. Jesus, he muttered. What the German shepherd stood half-hidden behind an overturned shelf. Its ribs showed through matted fur. It looked half-starved, half-feral. The growl wasn't fierce, it was desperate. Noah held perfectly still. Easy, boy. I'm not here to take your dinner. The dog bared its teeth but didn't advance. The storm howled outside, rattling the windows. The animal shivered, caught between fear and exhaustion. For a second, Noah saw himself in that look, cornered hollow, just trying to survive another night. He crouched slowly, lowering the flashlight. Hey, you can stay in here if you want. I won't bother you. The dog didn't move, but it didn't attack either. Guess that makes two of us, Noah said softly. Two strays in the same storm. He turned away, found an old wool blanket on the cot, shook it out, and tossed it near the stove. He set his pack down, found his lighter, and worked the old potbelly stove until it coughed up a flicker of warmth. Minutes passed. When he turned around again, the dog had crept closer, one cautious paw at a time. It stood at the edge of the blanket, watching him with suspicion and something else. Curiosity. Noah exhaled through his nose, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. You're a smart one, huh? You know warmth when you feel it. The animal hesitated, then lay down near the stove, muscles still tense but no longer ready to spring. For the first time in years, Noah felt the faint echo of company. He poured some of his canned beans into a dented bowl, set a bit aside, and slid it across the floor. The dog sniffed it, then devoured it in seconds. Guess we have an understanding, Noah murmured. The storm raged through the night. The sound of wind became a lullaby of chaos outside the thin walls. Noah sat by the stove, staring at the flames, his mind looping through memories he could never quiet the ambush. The radio going dead, Hank's voice fading in static. He rubbed his eyes. The heat from the stove painted his face in shifting orange light. The dog stirred beside him. Shadow, he said suddenly. That's what I'll call you. The dog lifted its head, ears twitching. Yeah, Noah said quietly. You look like something that's been following me a long time. He leaned back against the wall, exhaustion finally winning over vigilance. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, two survivors shared its silence. He didn't know it yet, but this fragile, unlikely peace was only the calm before something far more dangerous. Because when dawn broke and the snowlight spilled through the cracked windows, Shadow would lead him to a secret buried beneath the station, something that would turn this forgotten place into the most important battlefield of his life. Snow hammered the walls of Redford Station like a siege. The wind moaned through broken seams in the windows, turning the old building into a haunted lung that breathed in fear and exhaled cold. But inside, the glow of the potbelly stove cast flickers of orange light on peeling walls, and in that tiny radius of warmth, two shadows remained still. Noah Callahan hadn't moved much since last night. His back ached from sleeping against the wall, and the taste of metal still clung to the back of his throat, a bitter residue of adrenaline that hadn't fully drained. He blinked eyes gritty from half-sleep and turned his head slowly. The dog Shadow lay curled near the stove, no longer tense but not relaxed either. He was awake, ears twitching with every gust of wind, tail occasionally thumping in restless bursts. That wildness hadn't left his eyes. It was just quiet now. Noah stretched out his legs and rubbed the stiffness from his neck. "Morning," he muttered, voice low. Shadow didn't look at him, but the tail flicked once. Noah stood and shuffled toward the back of the station. The faucet still didn't work, pipes probably frozen solid, but there were a couple jugs of water in the corner from the emergency stash he'd brought in yesterday. He poured some into a bowl and pushed it toward the dog. Shadow eyed him warily, then drank. "I know that look," Noah said, crouching nearby. "That's the look of someone still half ready to bolt." The dog paused, mid-drink, eyes flicking up at him. "You and me, we're both just trying not to freeze to death in more ways than one." He hadn't meant to say it out loud, but the words just came. He leaned back on his heels and let the silence return. Out here, the world had been reduced to its most basic rules: heat, food, shelter, silence. There was something almost biblical about it, just a man and a dog against the void. After breakfast, canned beans again, which Shadow scarfed down like steak, they took their first full tour of the building. The gas station was a disaster. Ceiling tiles had collapsed in the hallway behind the stockroom. Broken glass was still embedded in the counter display. Most of the back wall shelves had rotted through. The garage, though, it had held up better. Tools still lined the pegboard. An old army green tool chest sat pushed against the wall, dented but intact. Noah clicked on his flashlight and stepped into the shadows of the garage. Shadow followed him, sniffing everything with quick, hungry movements. He paused at one corner, nose pressed against the floor. Noah turned toward the noise. "What is it?" Shadow didn't growl, didn't bark, just kept scratching at the floor like he'd caught a scent buried deep. Noah walked over, sweeping the beam of light across cracked concrete. Nothing unusual, but Shadow was certain. He scratched harder, then stopped and looked back at Noah like, "Well." Noah knelt and pressed his palm to the floor. It was cold, colder than the rest of the room. Hollow. He stood crossed to the tool chest and found a crowbar tucked behind it. The handle was coated in rust, but still solid. He came back, positioned it at a jagged crack, and wedged it in. The sound of splitting concrete echoed like a rifle shot. Shadow backed up, ears flat. Noah gritted his teeth and pulled again. A chunk of the floor broke away, revealing wood beneath, old and rotted, but definitely not natural to the structure. His heart thudded harder. Beneath the wood, a trap door. Noah stared at it for a long time. Then he turned to Shadow. "Well," he whispered, "either your nose just found a rat's coffin, or something Redford didn't want anyone else to see." He grabbed the handle and pulled. It creaked open. Beneath was a narrow stairwell leading into darkness. No light, no sound. Just the scent of stale air and something metallic, maybe rust, maybe blood. Shadow let out a low whine. "I know," Noah said. "Me too." He went to grab his flashlight and sidearm an old Glock he hadn't used in years. He checked the mag, racked it once, and took a breath. Then he returned to the trap door and descended, Shadow padding down behind him. The air grew colder as they moved. Each step creaked under their weight. At the bottom was a small room no bigger than a walk-in closet, but reinforced with concrete walls and lined with old military-issue crates. A desk sat shoved against one wall, and on top of it a locked steel footlocker. Noah stepped forward. "Redford, what the hell were you doing?" He scanned the room. No wires, no cameras, just dust and the lingering sense of purpose. This wasn't just a bunker. It was something else, something strategic. He sat at the desk, pulled the locker toward him, and examined the latch. No markings, no code, just an old padlock. He pried it open with the crowbar. Inside a rugged laptop, a satellite phone, and a leather-bound notebook edges curled from moisture and age. Noah reached for the notebook first. His name was on the inside cover. His name, in Redford's handwriting. If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. And you were the only one I could trust. Noah's hands tensed around the leather. He flipped through the pages. Names, coordinates, financial accounts, timelines, maps with red markings, a photo of a man in a tailored suit, early 50s, silver hair, shark eyes. Underneath it, the name Grant Levington. Something inside Noah went still. Levington. That name. He remembered it whispered in passing during their last deployment. Contractor. Civvy. Too clean. Too connected. Redford never trusted him. And now the old man was dead. And Noah was sitting in a frozen bunker beneath a ruined gas station, holding evidence that might explain why. Shadow let out a low growl. Noah looked up. The dog's ears were up, body tense. Something was wrong. Then he heard it too. A sound from above. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Noah snapped the notebook shut and killed the flashlight. He whispered to Shadow, "Go quiet." The dog stilled instantly. Trained or just smart, Noah didn't know, but it worked. Upstairs, the footsteps stopped. The door creaked. Noah's mind raced. Was it someone local, a drifter? Or something worse? He reached for the Glock, heart thudding. He couldn't run, couldn't fight blind. But he could listen. And wait. He stayed frozen as the sound faded. A minute passed. 2. Then silence. Noah let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Shadow's head tilted, ears still focused above. Noah looked at the notebook again. At Levington's name. At the words Redford had written like a final command. Whatever was happening, it wasn't over. It was just beginning. Because secrets like this didn't stay buried forever. They clawed their way up through the cold. The wind outside Redford Station hadn't let up. It roared like a wild thing, relentless and cold, but Noah Callahan didn't hear it anymore. His world had shrunk down to the size of a trapdoor bunker beneath a ruined gas station. The air down here smelled of iron and secrets, and Noah could feel the weight of years pressing in on him like the concrete walls themselves. Shadow paced near the stairs, his nails clicking against the floor. Still alert, still uneasy. Whatever or whoever had been walking above them earlier was gone now. But Noah wasn't fooled. This place wasn't abandoned anymore. It had eyes on it. Maybe it never really stopped being watched. He sat at the old desk, Redford's worn leather notebook open beside him. The photo of Grant Levington lay next to it. A face from the past. Sharp suit, soft hands, a kind of quiet smugness Noah remembered from men who never stepped foot in sand, but pulled the strings of war all the same. He turned the rugged military laptop in his hands. It looked ancient, maybe 5 or 6 years old, but built to survive a bomb blast. The casing was dented, scratched. No power light. He hit the button again. Nothing. Figures, Noah muttered. He checked the bag the laptop had come in. Inside was a spare battery and a power brick. The cord was frayed but usable. He plugged it into the wall, and by some miracle, the generator he'd fired up earlier in the garage was enough to give it juice. A small green light blinked. The screen flickered. He held his breath. It booted. A black screen appeared asking for a password. Just one line. No clues. He tried the obvious Redford. Shadow, Callahan, Afghanistan. Nothing. He leaned back in the chair, frustrated. Shadow sat beside him now, watching him as if expecting something more than technical troubleshooting. Noah rubbed his face. "All right, Hank. What were you thinking?" He glanced at the notebook again. "Maybe something in here." One page had been folded 3 times. When he opened it, he saw a single line underlined twice in red ink. "We hold the line where it breaks." It hit him like a punch to the chest. He remembered that phrase. Redford had used it during their last deployment during the worst of it. When comms went down, when the convoy never came. It wasn't just a slogan, it was something Redford believed, something they'd bled for. Noah typed it in. W3 hold. Line. The screen went black, then came alive with a hum. Files. Dozens of them. Video logs, audio recordings, PDFs, photographs, bank statements, maps, encrypted folders with names like Falcon Silo WY4579, and one video file sitting alone on the desktop titled Only to Noah. He double-clicked. The screen filled with static. Then Redford's face appeared, older than Noah remembered, eyes sunken, beard graying. He wore a flannel shirt, seated at the very desk Noah sat at now. "If you're watching this," Redford said, "then I'm gone. And I probably dragged you into something you don't want to be part of. I'm sorry for that." Noah swallowed hard. Shadow leaned closer to the screen. Redford continued, voice low but clear. "What we saw over there, what they made us do, that wasn't the war we signed up for. I started digging after I got out. Names, contracts, private deals between defense contractors and American businesses with no oversight. Grant Levington, he was at the center of it. He got men killed to protect numbers in a spreadsheet." Redford leaned in, eyes dark. "I tried to go through channels, got stonewalled, threatened, watched. So I built this place, made it look like a broken-down hole on the map. But it's a Dropbox now, a listening post. Proof lives here in the files. Everything. Offshore accounts, code names, you name it." Noah sat frozen. Redford paused, then added, "I left it for you, Noah, because you were the only one who ever asked why. You're the one who stayed clean. That matters. If you're here, it means you still give a damn. Or maybe you just couldn't walk away. Either way, this truth is yours now." The screen flickered. The video ended. Noah sat back silent. The room felt smaller somehow. Tighter, hotter. Shadow whined soft and sharp. Noah looked at the screen again. Dozens of folders, each one a loaded gun pointed at men in expensive suits. "Jesus, Hank." Noah whispered, "What the hell were you into?" He started clicking through the files, scanning documents faster than he could process them. Defense contracts, disbursement records. Millions of dollars shuffled through fake charities, research labs, shell companies. He recognized some of the names, government officials, former officers, and most of all, Levington Holdings. Every trail led back to Grant Levington. Sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. Sometimes it claws its way up through concrete. The words echoed in Noah's head. That wasn't just a metaphor now. It was happening literally. Shadow's ears perked up again. This time he didn't growl, he stood. Body stiff, tail low. Noah rose slowly, listening. Then he heard it too. Tires crunching over snow. Not the wind, not a memory. Someone was here. He slammed the laptop shut, stuffed the notebook and drive into his rucksack, and motioned to Shadow. They crept up the stairs, slow and silent. Through the cracks in the boarded window, Noah saw it. A black SUV, not local, no markings. Tinted windows. It parked right in front of the station. A man stepped out. Long coat, leather gloves, clean cut. Not military, but not civilian either. Noah didn't recognize the face, but his gut clenched. He ducked back, whispered to Shadow quiet. The man walked to the front door, knocked twice, polite. Then he stepped back and waited. A moment later, the phone behind the counter rang. Noah flinched. The damn landline. He hesitated, then picked it up. The voice on the other end was smooth, controlled. "Mr. Callahan, my name is Lucas Darby. I represent Mr. Grant Levington. We understand you've recently come into possession of property once owned by Sergeant Hank Redford." Noah said nothing. "We're prepared to offer you a generous compensation for the station," Darby continued. $500,000 wired immediately. No strings. In exchange, you vacate by morning. Noah's jaw tightened. "And if I say no?" There was a pause. Then calmly, "Then Mr. Levington assumes you're interested in history. That tends to be dangerous." Click. Noah hung up. The SUV lingered for another minute, then rolled away, tires whispering against the snow. Shadow growled. Noah looked down at the dog. "Well, buddy, looks like the past just rang the doorbell." He turned back toward the garage where the generator hummed and the satellite phone sat charging. Because if the past was coming for him, he'd need someone on the outside. And he knew exactly who to call. The satellite phone pulsed with a weak signal, the green LED blinking just enough to let Noah know it was alive. He stood over it, the snow-laced wind rattling the station's windows like bones. He'd plugged it into the generator as soon as Darby's SUV disappeared over the ridge, urgency burning in his gut. Shadow lay nearby, ears twitching at every noise. The dog hadn't relaxed since the phone call. Noah flipped open the sat phone's rubber casing and stared at the keypad. One contact was saved on the screen, marked only by a single letter R. He didn't know who it was. Redford hadn't explained in the notebook, but right now it was the only hand left to reach for. He pressed call. The signal cycled. 3 seconds. 5. 10. Then click. Static. Then a voice. Female sharp. "This line is dark. Who is this?" He hesitated. "Name's Noah Callahan. I inherited something that used to belong to Hank Redford." Silence. Then, "Where are you, Wyoming?" "Redford Station." Another pause. "Are you safe?" He looked toward the boarded-up windows. "Define safe." "I'll be there in 2 days," the voice said. "Don't go anywhere. And don't trust anyone else." Click. The line went dead. Noah stared at the phone, then slowly lowered it. 2 days. He just had to survive 2 days in a snow-choked gas station, with a dog, a laptop full of classified hell, and a billionaire's fixer knocking on his door. Easy. He returned to the desk in the basement bunker. The generator was still running, humming like an old man's breathing. He opened the laptop again and clicked into a folder marked OPSL Cam. Dozens of video files populated the screen. Body cam footage. Some had timestamps. Some didn't. One stood out labeled Silo. 1-3, redacted. He clicked it. The screen flared white, then adjusted to grainy helmet cam footage. He recognized the terrain, instantly rocky outcrops, sand, sharp cliffs, a canyon system outside Kandahar. The voice over comms was unmistakable. "Stay sharp, eyes on North Ridge." Command said, "Levington's drop is inbound any minute now." "Redford." Noah leaned in closer. The camera swung left. A convoy of unmarked black SUVs appeared in the dust. The troops lowered their weapons, not regular military. No flags, no ID. A man exited one of the SUVs, briefcase in hand. Levington. Same face, same suit, sunglasses, surrounded by contractors. Redford's voice again. "We're supposed to secure the handoff, but this isn't arms, this isn't gear." The camera zoomed in slightly. The briefcase was opened. Inside were data drives, not weapons. Levington handed them off to a man with a satellite rig strapped to his back. Redford murmured, "That's not supposed to be here." Then gunfire. Screams, chaos. Redford ducked behind a rock, shouting for cover. The unmarked convoy opened fire on them. A squad mate went down, bleeding out in the Sonde. Redford's voice cracked. "They're burning the op. They're burning it. Call for evac." The footage ended in static. Noah sat frozen, fingers clenched into fists. That was the mission that got classified and buried. The one that never made the debriefs. He remembered the fallout. Men dead. Details lost. And Redford had always said nothing. Now Noah knew why. He opened another video, then another. All the same pattern: Levington operating outside protocol, making trades, disappearing before the violence started. And every time someone else paid the price. The screen blurred as Noah stared at it, rage rising from somewhere deep. The first casualty is always the truth. That's what Redford had said in the video. And now it lived in every frame Noah watched. A sharp crash from above snapped him out of it. Shadow bolted upright. Noah shut the laptop, grabbed the Glock, and climbed the stairs fast. The sound had come from the back of the station near the garage. He crept forward slow and low, Shadow following behind, tail stiff, teeth bared. The side door hung half open, snow swirling in. Someone had been here. Noah scanned the footprints, only one set. Not Darby's. Smaller. He raised the gun and stepped outside. Wind slashed at his face. The snow was lighter now, but the cold was still brutal. He followed the tracks to the fuel yard behind the station. Nothing. No one. But when he returned to the station, Shadow was gone. Noah froze. "Shadow," he called, voice sharp. Silence. He moved room to room, calling louder. Nothing. His gut dropped. This wasn't a random visitor. He returned to the garage and saw it another set of tracks. Not boots. Shoe prints. Leading away from the station and into the trees. The message was clear. They'd taken the dog, and they wanted something in return. Noah stormed back inside, heart hammering. He opened the laptop, went back to Redford's files, searched for clues, names, contacts, something, anything. Then he saw a folder he'd missed before deadfall. Inside was one document, a list of transaction records. The recipient, Darby and Associates. The sender, Levington Holdings. The memo line, asset disposal, witness list. Noah stared at the screen. The list was long: civilian names, soldiers, contractors, even government employees. Some marked with red, some crossed out. He scrolled to the end. Noah Callahan. Listed. Not crossed out. And underneath that, in a separate entry, companion animal. 004. Asset leverage. They weren't just watching. They'd planned this. "Son of a bitch," he whispered. He pulled the sat phone from his jacket. Hit redial. Nothing. No signal. They were jamming it now. He slammed the phone down, hands shaking. They wanted the laptop, the notebook, everything Redford had gathered. And they were using Shadow to get it. But they made one mistake. They thought Noah was still the man who'd stay quiet. They didn't know what they'd just unleashed. He zipped up his jacket, slung the rucksack over his shoulder, and checked the Glock again. "If they took my dog," he said, voice low, "they declared war." He stepped outside into the storm-washed night. Snow crunched beneath his boots. The trees loomed ahead. He didn't know where they'd taken Shadow, but he was going to find him, and then he was going to bring it all down. Noah didn't sleep. He couldn't. His mind was a thunderstorm of fury and calculation, and the cold creeping into Redford Station felt merciful compared to the chill in his chest. Somewhere out in the snow-covered woods, Shadow was being held by men who didn't blink at erasing lives. He was bait now, a bargaining chip. And Noah knew what that meant. They thought he'd trade silence for mercy. They'd miscalculated. The sun hadn't even broken the horizon when he heard the crunch of tires. Same SUV, same tinted windows. This time, they didn't knock. Lucas Darby stood by the front doors, gloved hands behind his back coat, tailored like he'd stepped off a private jet, not into a frozen Wyoming morning. Noah stepped out, Glock tucked behind his back, breath forming in sharp clouds. "You're persistent," he said. Darby smiled with a cool civility that made Noah want to knock his teeth in. "It's my job to follow through. I figured kidnapping a dog wasn't part of the company brochure." Darby tilted his head slightly. "Collateral control. You know how this works." Noah took a slow step forward. "I know exactly how this works. I just don't care anymore." Darby studied him a moment. "I was hoping this would be simpler." "You offering again?" Noah asked, eyes narrow. Darby reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. He tossed it to the ground between them. It landed without a sound in the snow. Noah didn't pick it up. "That's a cashier's check for $500,000, Darby said. "You walk away. Leave the station, the files, the past. You go wherever you want. Nobody follows. Nobody bothers you." Noah stared at him. "And if I say no," Darby's voice dropped slightly, "then Mr. Levington assumes your sense of morality outweighs your sense of survival." Noah's fists curled at his sides. $500,000 to forget. Or a bullet to remember. Darby didn't blink. "That's poetic." Noah took another step closer, heat rising in his gut. "I'm not for sale." Darby sighed and turned to go. "Then I hope you enjoy the cold, Mr. Callahan." He walked calmly back to the SUV and got in. The engine hummed, tires spun, and within seconds they were gone again, like phantoms that left real footprints. Noah stood still, breathing through his rage. Back inside, he grabbed the files again. The names, the accounts, the ops footage, he'd make them all public. Burn them with the very truth they'd tried to bury. But not yet. Not while Shadow was still out there. He scoured the laptop again for clues. Redford had kept maps, detailed ones including satellite overlays of the surrounding area. One zone was marked with a red circle barely 4 miles northeast. Old ranger station. Decommissioned. No power, no cell coverage. It was isolated. Perfect for stashing something you didn't want found. Or someone. He stuffed what he needed into a tactical bag, flashlight knife, loaded mags, the notebook. He paused by the locker and grabbed a flare gun. One shot red-tipped. Redford had marked it only if cornered. He added it to the pack. Outside, the wind had died, but the forest loomed darker than before. The kind of quiet that meant something was waiting. He started walking. Snow crunched beneath his boots, thick and unrelenting. Trees closed around him, tall and thin like spears stabbing the sky. He moved fast, sticking to the game trails Redford had flagged in the maps. By mile 2, his legs burned. By mile 3, he was running on pure will. Then he saw it, a sloped cabin tucked into the hill, boarded windows, metal antenna snapped clean. The fencing was partially collapsed, and smoke curled faintly from a side exhaust pipe. There was power inside. A generator. Noah went to his stomach, crawled through the underbrush, eyes on every corner. Movement far left window. A man. Armed. He counted 2 outside, 1 patrolling the back, 1 near the front door. He waited until the back guard lit a cigarette, then moved. He crept around the north end of the cabin, knife in hand. The man never saw him coming. 1 clean strike to the neck, muffled breath, then silence. Noah dragged him into the snowbank and took his comms, switched to the channel and listened. ETA on the courier, a voice asked over static. Another voice answered. 30 minutes. Levington wants the package moved by nightfall. Package. Noah knew what that meant. He crept along the back wall, found the basement entrance locked but weak. 1 kick. The hinges cracked. He slipped inside. It was dark, damp, smelled of sweat and metal. Then he heard it. A low growl. Shadow, he whispered. A pause. Then claws on concrete. A shape lunged from the dark, teeth bared, then stopped inches from Noah's chest. Recognition hit fast. Shadow froze, sniffed, then whimpered. Yeah, Noah breathed. I'm here, buddy. The dog pushed his head against Noah's chest, body trembling. He'd been hit, small bruises, a raw patch on his flank. Noah's jaw clenched. He ran his hand gently down Shadow's side. We're getting out. He turned, scanned the dark. A single guard stood near the steps. Noah crept forward, raised the pistol, and dropped him in silence. Then gunfire exploded upstairs. They'd found the body. Noah grabbed Shadow by the collar. Move! They bolted out the basement door into the snow. Shouts followed them. Noah ducked behind the fallen fence, returned fire, 1-2 shots. He didn't aim to kill, just slow them down. He reached the tree line. Shadow stayed close, moving low. A bullet zipped past his ear. He dropped behind a pine trunk, reloaded. Then he pulled the flare gun from his pack. 1 shot straight up. The red bloom tore the sky open like blood in water. A signal. Not for help. For war. He and Shadow moved fast, disappearing into the forest. Behind them, the men shouted into radios, confused and furious. But someone had seen that flare. Someone on the other end of that sat phone. And she was already on her way. Snow melted from Shadow's coat in wet drips as he curled beside the wood stove, finally safe, but still watching the door like it owed him blood. Noah sat nearby, exhausted, bruised, with his Glock on the table and Redford's notebook open beside him. The flare he'd fired hours earlier had lit the sky like a wound, and someone had seen it. Now they waited. The knock came just before sunrise. 3 precise raps. Not urgent, not afraid. Noah moved silently to the door, gun low but ready. Shadow stood, 2 head tilted, tail still. He opened the door a crack. A woman stood there, bundled in a faded green parka, her hair wind-tossed and streaked with silver. Her eyes, sharp and amber, studied him like a puzzle half solved. Eliza Reyes, she said. You're taller than I pictured. Noah opened the door wider. You're early. She stepped inside without waiting for an invite. You lit the sky red. I figured time mattered. Shadow sniffed her, circled once, then settled. Not exactly friendly, but not hostile either. Good enough. Noah motioned to the stove. Heat's back there. Coffee's crap, but it's hot. She unzipped her coat and shook out the cold. Beneath, she wore a reinforced vest over a flannel shirt, her jeans caked in road dust. Her sidearm was holstered tight, professional quiet. "You've got Redford's files?" she asked. Noah nodded and slid the notebook across the table. "And his laptop. You can look, but I'm not giving them up." She flipped through the notebook with care, like each page was evidence in a trial no one knew was happening. "So he really pulled it off," she murmured. "I thought he was bluffing." Right before he disappeared, he said, "If they bury me, make damn sure the ghosts follow." Noah leaned back in the chair. Not all ghosts stay buried. Some come back with questions. She looked up at him, something flickering in her expression. Respect. Or maybe regret. Redford wasn't just compiling dirt on Levington, she said. He was building a case, a real one. Names, dates, witnesses, enough to take the whole machine down if anyone had the spine to publish it. "And what stopped him?" Noah asked. She didn't flinch. "The last time he tried, the witness turned up dead. A journalist in Berlin was poisoned. A contractor in D.C. hit by a car. Coincidence doesn't kill that clean." She tapped the notebook. "This is the last copy of everything. I searched his safe houses, his server trails, all dead ends. Whatever's here, this is it." Noah exhaled slow. The weight of it pressed into his ribs. "You think Levington knows I have it?" "Darby showing up means they're nervous," she said. "That means they don't know everything. Yet." She stood and paced the room, scanning the boarded windows. "I worked with Redford for 5 years. I was his contact inside the bureau. We weren't sanctioned, but we were careful. He called me the voice in the static. Said I kept him from going dark." Noah watched her closely. "Why'd you help him?" She hesitated. "Because once upon a time I believed justice was a thing you earned, not bought." Silence settled between them. Then she said, "I read your file. Special Forces, 2 tours, Medal of Valor. Then you walked away." "Didn't feel like a hero," he muttered. "Good," she replied. "Heroes don't win. Survivors do." She dropped her bag on the table and pulled out a hard drive. "We copy the files, encrypt them. Then I take one version to my source in Chicago. Someone still clean. Someone who can leak it." "And the other?" Noah asked. She met his eyes. "You keep it, in case I don't make it." Noah nodded once. "Fair." They worked for hours, cloning drives, cross-checking maps, setting up decoys. Reyes was surgical, never wasting a movement. Noah liked that. It felt like working with someone who knew what the endgame cost. When the sun dipped again, Reyes glanced at him. "Tell me something." "What, when the shooting starts, and it will, how far are you willing to go?" He didn't hesitate. "As far as they went." "Further if I have to." She nodded. "Good. Because once this hits the wire, it doesn't stop. There's no walking it back." "I wasn't planning to," Noah said. "I want them to see it coming." She half smiled. "You might just be crazier than Redford." Before she could say more, Shadow growled low and deep. Noah grabbed the Glock. Reyes moved to the window, pulled a compact scope from her coat, and peeked through the gap in the boards. "One vehicle," she whispered. "Snowmobile. Just one rider." "Could be a scout," Noah said. "Could be bait," Reyes added. Noah moved to the door and waited. The snowmobile pulled up slowly, its engine idling. The rider wore a full helmet, visor blacked out. No visible weapon, just a backpack slung over one shoulder. Then the rider raised one gloved hand and tossed the pack toward the door. Noah waited until the machine sped off. He opened the door carefully and pulled the bag inside. Reyes watched as he opened it. Inside was a burner phone and a photo. Shadow-bound, snarling. Taken hours ago. A note, "You have 48 hours. Deliver the drives. Or the dog dies first, then the girl." Reyes stiffened. Girl Noah stared at the back of the photo. A single name was written there. Tessa. His sister. His world tilted. They had her. Reyes grabbed the phone. "We need to move. Now." Noah's jaw locked. "No, not yet. They've got leverage," she snapped. "They're not bluffing. That's why we do this smart," he said. "We plan. We hit back. And when we strike," he looked at the photo again, "we burn it all down." The cabin had gone quiet again, save for the low hum of the heater and the occasional pop from the stove. Outside, the wind had died down, but the danger hadn't. Noah sat at the workbench, the burner phone still in his hand, the photo of Tessa lying next to it like a threat made flesh. Reyes stood across from him, pacing, every movement sharp with purpose. "She was never supposed to be part of this," Noah said, voice low. "She's a nurse. Works trauma at Denver General. Has nothing to do with Redford. With any of this." Reyes didn't look up. "Doesn't matter. They found a way in. They always do. That's how Levington operates. He doesn't fight people, he dismantles them." Noah slammed the phone onto the table. "Then we stop playing defense. We go at him." She turned to face him. "With what, 2 pistols and a thumb drive? That's not enough. Then we make it enough." He leaned forward. "To beat a man like Levington, you don't hit him. You unmake him." That stopped her. Noah pulled out Redford's notebook and flipped to a page marked with 3 stars. Redford had been tracking digital nodes, servers, shell companies, offshore banks, all tied to Levington's empire. Each one had a code, a date, and a weak point. He ran everything through a single backbone server cluster, Noah said, pointing. "It's not military grade, but it's protected by redundancy, black site mirroring, and a lot of dirty money. You hit one node, it reroutes. But if you take out the root server, everything collapses." Reyes leaned over the page. "This one. Location ID 43B. Wyoming. That's within range." Noah nodded. Redford marked it as dormant, but physical access required. "It's not a web attack. It's a real-world smash job." She squinted at the coordinates. "Old mine. Probably refitted." "Can we do it?" Noah asked. Reyes smirked. "I didn't come all this way for coffee." They spent the next 3 hours prepping. Reyes field-stripped her rifle, checked ammo-loaded signal scramblers into a pouch. Noah prepped the old Jeep out back. Redford had kept it buried under a tarp and 3 feet of snow, but the engine still coughed to life. Old, battered, but it would get them there. Shadow paced beside them, still sore, but back to full alert. He didn't bark, didn't growl. He just watched the woods like he expected hell to arrive at any second. Before they left, Noah pulled out the flare gun again. Reyes raised a brow. "We expecting backup? We might need a distraction." He tucked it in his coat. "Or a signal. Either way, it's insurance." They hit the road just after noon, tires chewing through slush and gravel. The path was mostly forgotten logging trails, winding up through rock and pine toward a range called Devil's Spine. Redford had underlined that name 3 times in his notes. As they neared the site, Reyes scanned the ridge with her scope. There, she said. North slope. Concrete venting. Thermal plumes. Looks like a server farm buried in a mountain, Noah muttered. They parked behind a fallen tree and went the rest of the way on foot. The wind howled through the past snow, blowing in thin sheets like ash. The front entrance was buried, but the side shaft, likely a ventilation escape, was exposed just enough for them to slip through. Inside, the air was metallic, buzzing faintly with electricity. They moved quietly through the narrow tunnel until they reached a steel door. Keypad access. But the power lines were exposed, sloppily patched. Reyes knelt and pulled out a small EMP puck. Borrowed this from a friend in tech crimes, she said. One pulse fries the lock. Might get us 2 minutes before backup kicks in. Do it, Noah said. She stuck it to the panel and stepped back. A high-pitched whine, then a snap of blue sparks. The lock clicked open. They moved. The inside of the server facility was clinical white LED strips, rows of humming black towers, cables thick as arms running overhead. And near the center, a single control console marked Root Access, LV43B. Noah approached the terminal. It's not encrypted, he said. They didn't expect anyone to get this far. Reyes handed him the drive. Plug it in. Dump everything. Then torch it. He slid it into the port. Lines of code streamed across the screen, names, transactions, videos, proof, then alarms. Red lights flashed. A metal door slammed shut behind them. Motion sensors. Reyes cursed. We've got company. Noah looked around. We hold until the download finishes. Then we break it. They took cover. The first shot hit the far wall, missing wide. 2 men in tactical black entered from a stairwell, silencers' visors moving fast. Reyes dropped the first with 2 quick shots. Noah clipped the second in the leg, then finished him with a body shot. Then silence. The screen dinged. Transfer complete. Noah pulled the drive. Now. Reyes pulled a thermite charge from her bag. This'll melt it down to slag. They backed away. She lit the charge. Sparks flared. The server hissed, then burst into a pool of white-hot destruction. Run, she shouted. They made it out the same way they came, barely. Once outside, Reyes collapsed against a tree, panting. You really want to unmake a man? Noah pulled out the drive and held it up. I just did. As they climbed back into the Jeep, Noah looked out over the range. Somewhere out there, Tessa was still in danger. But now Levington's armor had cracks, and that was the beginning of the end. Everyone's got a line. Levington crossed mine the second he touched my family. Noah hadn't spoken in over an hour. The road ahead coiled through the forest like a serpent of cracked asphalt and fog. Beside him, Reyes drove in silence, one hand on the wheel, the other resting near the butt of her pistol. In the back seat, Shadow slept, his breath slow but alert, ears twitching with every bump. The flash drive Noah had pulled from the server farm was now duplicated, encrypted 3 times, and hidden in separate drop locations across the map. Redford's plan was becoming theirs, now decentralize the truth, make it unkillable. But the truth alone wouldn't save Tessa. What they needed was a location. Reyes pulled over near a rest stop on Route 287. From her jacket, she retrieved a slim, encrypted satellite tablet, military surplus, patched with civilian tracking software. Intel came in while we were on the road, she said. My contact traced a secure frequency used by Darby's crew. It's pinging now somewhere near Elk Valley. Transport convoy, 3 vehicles moving west. Noah leaned in. They moving a prisoner based on routing? Yes. 1 heat source per vehicle. Not standard. My bet is Tessa's in the second car. Noah's jaw tightened. They're running silent. No air support. Not yet. They're staying ground-based to avoid satellite tracking. Low-tech, high control. He stood back, eyes narrowing toward the fog-choked hills. We cut them off. Reyes arched a brow. Convoy. Like that's not soft. I'm not going in soft. He looked her dead in the eye. Everyone's got a line. Levington crossed mine the second he touched my family. She nodded, no argument. Then let's make this ugly. They backtracked 3 miles, turned onto an old maintenance route that looped around toward Elk Valley's edge, a crumbling logging road long abandoned but still passable. The air grew colder. Pines towered over them. Shadows stretched like claws. They parked the Jeep at a bend and unpacked. Reyes assembled a short-range jamming rig. This'll knock out their comms within 200 yards. Buy us time. Noah loaded mags into his AR. I want visual confirmation before we engage. They climbed a ridge above the main road. Snow flurried down, painting everything in silence. Minutes passed. Then headlights. 3 black SUVs spaced evenly. Reyes checked her scope. Tessa's in the middle one. She's cuffed, conscious, guard at her side. Noah scanned the terrain. We disable the lead and tail first. Box them in. He slipped into position. Reyes took the opposite flank. When the first SUV passed the trigger point, she activated the jammer. The moment comms died, the lead car slowed in confusion. Noah fired first 2 shots into the radiator. Steam hissed. The SUV jolted to a stop. The tail car tried to reverse. Reyes lobbed a flashbang. Light and sound ripped the stillness apart. Then chaos. Noah charged the middle SUV. One guard opened fire. He ducked, rolled, fired twice. The man dropped. He yanked the back door open. Tessa's eyes locked onto his bloodied lip, wrists bruised. Noah. I've got you, he said, cutting her restraints. She stumbled out. He guided her behind a tree as bullets sparked off metal. Shadow broke from cover, snarling. One of the men tried to shoot him. Noah dropped the shooter with a single round. Within seconds, it was over. 3 men dead, 2 wounded. The third SUV engine still ticking as steam poured from the hood. Reyes cuffed one of the survivors and pressed her pistol to his temple. Where's Darby? The man spat blood. You're too late. He's gone to Deadfall. Noah froze. What's Deadfall? The man sneered. The clean room. If the drives aren't returned by midnight, he wipes everything. All backups. And your sister dies next time. Reyes pistol whipped him unconscious. Tessa leaned against the tree, breathing hard. Noah, they said you were already dead. Not yet, he said quietly, pulling her close. She didn't cry, didn't ask questions. She just held on to him like an anchor. They loaded the wounded into the rear SUV, tied them with flex cuffs, and dumped the other vehicles off the road. Reyes planted a tracker on one of the prisoners. Let's see who comes looking. As they drove south, Tessa finally broke the silence. They had files, photos, people's names, and they kept talking about a facility, one with black walls and no windows. Reyes looked over. That's Deadfall. Noah's hands tightened on the wheel. It's Levington's failsafe, probably where he's hiding. More than that, Reyes said. It's where they keep everything. Every untraceable fund, every ghost op, every blackmail thread. Wipe it, and no one can tie him to anything. Tessa leaned forward. Can you stop it? Noah nodded. We have 1 drive left, enough to make a full public dump, And if we do, she asked. Reyes answered. Then Levington's empire burns. They stopped at a cabin Reyes had prepped months ago, neutral ground, solar-powered off-grid. She swept it for bugs while Noah tended to Tessa's injuries. Later that night, Noah stepped out onto the porch. Snow fell in soft layers. The forest felt quiet for once. Reyes joined him, wrapping a coat tight around her. "We hit deadfall tomorrow," he said. She nodded. "Once we do, it's war." "I know." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Reyes added, "You trust me, right?" Noah glanced at her. "Why?" "Because we've got a leak," she said quietly. "Someone's feeding Darby intel. Our moves, our timing. That convoy, they knew you'd come." He stared at her. "Who I don't know yet. But it's close. And it's recent." Noah's face hardened. "Then we find them. Before they find us." Behind them in the shadows, one of the wounded guards stirred, and on the other side of a secure comms channel, a signal blinked. Tracked. Listened to. Next move already compromised. By dawn, the sky was pale steel. No colors, no warmth. Just the cold certainty of what was coming. Noah stood at the edge of the cabin's porch, watching the tree line for movement. Tessa was inside, still sleeping, her body worn down from days of captivity. Reyes had been gone for an hour, tracking signals, rechecking routes, anything to get ahead of the leak they'd uncovered. Shadow sat at Noah's feet, ears high, body still. Every part of Noah was on edge. When Reyes returned, her boots crunching over frost, she didn't speak until she was right beside him. "We have a problem," she said flatly. Noah didn't look at her. "Define it." Reyes pulled a folded printout from her coat burner cell logs traced to one of the safe houses Redford had once used. "There was a call made last night, while we were asleep, from this cabin's relay." Noah took the sheet, read it once. His jaw locked. "Who?" he asked. She hesitated. "Dean Carter." Noah looked up sharply. "Redford's old partner? I thought he was in the wind." "He was," Reyes said. "Until I checked the logs. He's been in contact with Darby, at least twice in the last 48 hours. Noah's stomach turned. "He gave them our position." Reyes nodded. "And probably fed them our route to deadfall." Noah took a long breath. Rage curled low in his chest, not hot, but cold. "Clean." "You trust him?" Reyes asked. "I used to," he said. "He helped Redford disappear, protected his daughter. He had reason. Everyone has reasons," she said, "but not all of them are good." Noah turned to her. "We stick to the plan. Deadfall tonight. But we go in assuming they'll be waiting." "You sure?" Noah's voice dropped. "You want leverage? Here's mine. I have nothing left to lose." That was the moment Reyes stopped trying to convince him. They packed silently. Reyes stashed the hard drive in a lead-lined pouch, then slipped it under the back seat. Shadow was alert, pacing in and out of the cabin. Tessa joined them, quietly bundled in Reyes's spare gear. Noah looked at his sister. "You don't have to come." "I do," she said. "I need to see how this ends." They drove for 3 hours without stopping. The approach to deadfall was buried deep in the Medicine Bow Range, accessible only by narrow switchbacks and blacklisted coordinates. The terrain was hostile, the kind of place built to keep things in and people out. The facility itself was invisible from the road, a concrete scar tucked into the hillside, half buried and camouflaged. No guards out front, no visible cameras. Too quiet. Noah parked under a thicket of dead pine. "We go in through the service tunnel Redford marked," he said. Avoid the front. Hit them from the blind side. They hiked up the ridge, climbing over icy boulders and sliding shale. The service entrance was real, corroded, rusted, locked by an ancient keypad. Reyes sliced the wires hot, jumped the circuit, and the door groaned open. Inside, the air was thick and dry. The corridor sloped downward, deeper into shadow, every footstep swallowed by silence. They moved as one to Noah up front, Reyes behind Tessa in the middle. Shadow led the way, pausing at corners, always listening. Halfway down, they hit the first checkpoint. 2 guards, light armor, conversing softly, then spotting movement. Noah dropped the first before he finished his sentence. Reyes stunned the second and zipped him up with flex cuffs. They dragged the bodies into a utility closet. Reyes stripped one of the radios and scanned frequencies. Encrypted but traceable, she said. We're close to the mainframe room. They passed through more hallways, labs, records rooms, storage for things that looked like they'd never seen sunlight. The deeper they went, the cleaner it got. Polished steel, seamless walls, security cameras moved with mechanical precision. Thermal sensors, Reyes muttered. This place isn't just a server farm, it's a vault. They reached a large glass-enclosed room marked Black Core Systems LVL-9, inside the heart of the Empire. Noah smashed the emergency panel, used a pry bar to break the lock. The glass shattered inward. They stepped through. The core towered before them, spinning fans, glowing servers, dozens of drives stacked in vertical rings. Reyes hooked in the hard drive. I need 60 seconds to trigger the upload. Noah stood guard at the entrance, gun raised. Tessa huddled near the wall, keeping low. Then came the voice. Overhead speakers crackled. Well done, Darby said, smooth and venomous. You got farther than Redford ever did. Noah looked up, scanning for audio sources. Darby continued. But you won't walk out. You see, I'm not here to negotiate anymore. I'm here to erase. Doors behind them slammed shut. Magnetic locks. The lights flickered, then dimmed red. Gas hissed into the room. Backup plan, Tessa shouted. Noah pulled the emergency panel. Manual override in the south corridor. Reyes yanked the drive mid-upload. We move now, they ran. The corridor flooded with alarms. Armed guards turned the corner. Noah dropped to one knee and fired. Reyes flanked the left wall and laid suppressive fire. Shadow darted forward, teeth snapping, slamming a guard to the ground. They reached the override door. It wouldn't budge. Then another gun clicked behind them. Dean Carter stepped out of the smoke weapon, aimed. Tessa froze. Dean. He didn't answer, just lowered the gun slightly. Noah stepped forward. You sold us out. I warned them, Carter said. That's all. I didn't know they'd take her. I didn't know they'd kill Redford. Reyes glared. You knew enough. Carter's hand trembled. I was trying to survive. That's all I've done since they burned us. You picked the wrong side, Noah said coldly. I didn't have a side, Carter whispered. Until now. He turned and shot the control panel behind him. The door groaned open. Noah didn't hesitate. He dragged Tessa out first. Reyes covered them. Carter followed, gun still raised, expression broken. They burst into the access shaft and climbed toward the exit hatch. The gas was still following, but slower now. Reyes tossed the hard drive to Noah. If we don't make it, get it out. We all make it, he growled. They reached the hatch, forced it open with a crowbar, and stumbled out into the snow just as the lower levels lit up with containment sirens. Behind them, deadfall began to lock down. Inside, Levington's voice returned on a final loop on, while you can. It won't matter. But it did matter, because Noah had the last piece, and the final reckoning was already in motion. The storm came in fast, hard sheets of sleet hammering the road as the black SUV tore across the Wyoming flats. Inside, Reyes sat in the back, with the hard drive clutched tight, wrapped in thermal foil, and hidden beneath the seat. Noah drove in silence, eyes locked on the highway windshield wipers screeching in rhythm. Tessa sat shotgun scanning for tails. Shadow laid low across the back floorboard, quiet but tense. Every few minutes, Noah checked the rear view. So far, they weren't being followed. But that wouldn't last. Their destination, a compound in northern Colorado, remote, protected, and more importantly, connected. It was where Redford had once met a journalist, known only by her call sign Minx. She wasn't just another leaker. She was a legend, someone who survived blackmail, exile, and an assassination attempt, all for publishing what others were too afraid to touch. If anyone could drop the truth and make it stick, it was her. When they arrived, the gate was already open. A tall woman in a brown parka stood at the entrance, short gray hair swept back, dark glasses over sharp eyes. She waved them in without a word. Inside, the place looked like an old ranch, but everything was reinforced, bulletproof windows, triple-locked entry points, Faraday mesh under the roof. Minx, Reyes said, stepping out. "Glad you're still breathing." Minx cracked a grin. "Takes more than politics to kill me." Then she glanced at Noah. "You're the brother." He nodded. "Noah Carter. You brought me something worth dying for. I brought something worth burning the world down for." They entered the secure room, rows of servers, media consoles, and 4 backup generators humming in the corner. Reyes handed over the drive. Minx slid it into an offline terminal. Within seconds, streams of data filled the screens: contracts, hit orders, emails, bank routes, and most damning of all, video recordings. Politicians laughing as money changed hands. Agents confessing to operations that never existed on paper. Victims' faces and names buried by redacted ink, now fully visible. Minx leaned back. "This isn't just a bomb. It's the whole damn war." Tessa stepped forward. "Can you make it public?" "Not all at once," Minx said. "That's how you get the story buried. It has to be precision cut. We leak one piece, then another. Build momentum. Pressure. By the time they react, they're already burning." Reyes folded her arms. "How long? 6 hours for the first drop," Minx said. "But once it starts, there's no stopping it." Noah nodded. "Good. Let's make it hurt." Minx stared at the screen, her eyes calculating. "You realize this doesn't just hit Levington. This drags in agencies, foreign ops, state officials. It rewrites the history books." Noah stepped beside her. "That's the point. The truth doesn't just expose power, it rewrites it." She nodded slowly. "Then we better write fast." The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Minx's team, 2 trusted operators, sifted through the data, prioritizing the files most likely to trigger public outrage and political upheaval. Reyes worked security protocol, setting up layered firewalls to stall takedown attempts. Tessa coordinated comms, using a scrambled relay to ping journalists, activists, and online watchdogs, preparing them to receive the first wave. By sunset, everything was in motion. Noah stood on the balcony outside, phone pressed to his ear. Dean Carter's voice crackled through the line. "They know what you did." "Let them come," Noah said. "They will. But there's more." Dean sounded hollow. "Deadfall was just one head. There's another site. North Dakota. They call it Pale House. It's where the real leverage is kept, insurance against retaliation." Noah's blood chilled. "Tessa, She's safe. But if you want to finish this, you need to go further. I'm listening. They're going to blame it all on Darby. Say he went rogue. Levington's cutting ties. Typical, Noah muttered. Burn the fall guy, preserve the machine. Dean's voice broke slightly. I was part of that machine. I thought I could survive it. Now I just want it gone. You know where Pale House is, I'll send the coordinates. Noah hung up. Reyes joined him a moment later. Everything's ready. First leak hits in 5 minutes. Good, he said, because we're not done. He handed her the phone. Pale House. Final node. She read the text, her eyes narrowing. This place is dirty. Off-grid. Even Redford didn't know about it. We hit it. Wiped the last trail. Finished the job. Minx stepped out, lighting a cigarette. You sure about this? Once this goes live, they'll label you terrorists, patriots, traitors. Depends who you ask. Noah exhaled, watching the horizon bleed orange. They called Redford paranoid, he said. Turns out he was just early. Inside, the screens lit up with headlines, exclusive leaked files, expose shadow network. Inside, U.S. intelligence money, murder, power, and names. The Redford Files, America's untold war. The internet ignited, forums exploded, reporters scrambled. Congressional aides texted in a panic. The world had just changed, and the center couldn't hold. Noah looked at Reyes. You ready for one last push? She grinned. Born ready. Tessa approached. I want to go with you. Noah shook his head. You've done enough. I'm not asking, she said. I need to see it through. Minx watched them quiet for a beat. Then she said, Take the backup copy. Just in case, and this. She handed Noah a small disk, a live feed encoder. You plug this into Pale House's mainframe, the world sees everything in real time. No edits, no denials. Noah pocketed it. Perfect. Reyes reloaded her gear. We move at first light. Tessa turned to the screens, watching the world react. Noah looked at his reflection in the glass, older, tired, but more alive than he'd felt in years. We unmade the lie, he said. Now let's kill what's left of it. Behind them, the servers kept humming, and the world kept changing. The road to Pale House was unmarked, just a spine of gravel carved through a bone-white stretch of North Dakota wilderness. Snow drifted in the air like falling ash, and the sky above looked bruised thick with storm clouds that refused to break. Noah drove with both hands on the wheel, his eyes narrowed against the growing wind. Reyes sat beside him, staring at the GPS coordinates like she expected them to move. Tessa was in the back seat, loading a sidearm she barely knew how to use, but had insisted on carrying. There were no signs, no fences, just endless plains stitched with dead grass and winter rot. But then it appeared. A gray structure, low and wide, half buried in the earth, like something too dangerous to fully expose. It had no markings, no flag, not even a visible entrance from the road. Just silence. Reyes checked her sidearm. That's it. No cameras. No guards. Too clean. It's not clean, Noah said. It's quiet. And quiet's worse. They parked half a mile out and approached on foot. Shadow led ears, low head turning constantly. The wind bit through every layer of their clothes, but none of them flinched. Not anymore. At the north side of the building, Reyes found what she was looking for, an exhaust grate built into the ground. No lock, she muttered, kneeling. But it's hot. They're running something big inside. With a crowbar, they pried it open and dropped into the darkness one by one. Inside it was like stepping into another world, silent, sterile, bathed in fluorescent white. The air smelled like ozone and bleach. Hallways stretched in tight angles, each turn exactly like the last. They moved slow, clearing rooms as they went. Labs' server banks sealed doors. Tessa whispered, "What is this place?" Reyes scanned a terminal. "Looks like medical research. Experimental therapies, neural mapping. But there's more, check this." She opened a hidden folder. Noah read over her shoulder. Psychological warfare, memory implantation, blackmail conditioning. They weren't just storing secrets here. They were building weapons from people. They passed a cell block next rows of doors with no handles on the inside. In one, a man sat in a chair, hands folded neatly on his lap, eyes wide open, unblinking. Tessa stepped toward the glass. "Sir, are you okay?" No response. Reyes pulled her back. "He's sedated or programmed. We can't help him right now." Then came the sound, soft and metallic. Footsteps. Noah raised his weapon eyes, scanning the corridor. A figure stepped into view, tall, dressed in surgical white face, obscured by a mask. "Put the gun down," the voice said. "Calm. Flat. This facility is off limits." Noah didn't move. "Where's Levington?" The man tilted his head. "You've already ruined him. But it doesn't matter. Pale House doesn't serve names. It serves continuity." Reyes raised her sidearm. "What does that mean?" "It means you came here thinking you'd shut us down," the man said, stepping forward. "But you walked into something built to outlive all of us. Destroy Levington, and someone else takes his place. End this operation, and another blooms 10 miles away. You didn't kill the beast. You just bruised the skin." Noah stepped forward. "Then we go deeper." He pulled the disc from his coat, the live feed encoder Minx had given them, and held it up. "This broadcasts everything. No edits, no spin. We show the world the truth in real time." The man didn't even blink. "You won't make it to the core." Reyes shot him. He dropped silently. They moved. Alarms blared, lights snapped red, metal walls shifted and locked behind them, sealing corridors like a trap. Left Reyes shouted. Stairwell access. They sprinted, weaving between corners as gas hissed into sealed rooms. Security drones emerged, whirring, armed with rubber slugs and knockout mist. Noah clipped one with 3 bursts. Tessa ducked under another. Reyes used a thermite charge to torch a control panel, frying half the lower-level security net. They reached the core room. A circular chamber filled with pods, glass coffins lining the walls, each holding a figure frozen in suspended animation. Men, women, some young, some old, all alive. Tessa gasped. These are people they erased. Noah stared, fury building. Redford wasn't paranoid. He underestimated them. At the far end stood a console wired into every pod, every server, every hidden archive. Noah rushed forward, slammed the encoder into the terminal. The screen flashed. Live transmission beginning. Minx's voice crackled in over the channel. "We see you. We're recording." Then the pods lit up. Each one played a holographic loop. Faces, testimonies, screams. Doctors describing psychological reprogramming. Soldiers recounting war crimes wiped from record. Civilians taken conditioned, turned into assets without memory. Reyes whispered, This is genocide by erasure." Noah spoke louder, his voice shaking, but clear. "If they want silence, we'll give them a scream they'll never forget." He pressed the final sequence. The feed went global. Within minutes, Pale House was exposed in full. The truth no longer belonged to secret servers. It belonged to everyone. But then the self-destruct warning lit up. Facility breach. Purge in 300 seconds. Noah turned. "We get the civilians out." Reyes ran to the nearest pod, tried to override the lock. "Systems fighting me." Tessa helped her. "How many can we open in time?" "Maybe 10, Reyes said. "Maybe less." Noah's eyes swept the room. "Then start." They opened what they could, dragged the disoriented victims toward the exit. Shadow helped guide them, barking when anyone slowed. 2 minutes left. Flames burst through the walls. Suppression foam hissed from vents. Reyes was last through the stairwell, carrying a man on her shoulders. Noah slammed the exit hatch behind her. They burst into the snow, coughing, stumbling, dragging survivors behind them. Behind them, Pale House erupted in a column of white fire. A scream in the sky. Not silence. Justice. They collapsed in the field, panting, shaking, alive. Tessa reached for her brother. "You did it," she said. "You broke the cycle." Noah shook his head. "We shattered the mirror." Snowmelt ran through the dirt outside the cabin like veins, thin, fragile proof that the worst of winter had finally passed. Noah stood in the clearing alone. His coat was zipped high, scarf pulled tight. The cold no longer bit like it used to. It just whispered. A quiet echo of everything he'd endured. Around him, the land stretched wide and quiet, dotted with budding pines and old gravel scars from long-forgotten roads. The kind of place that didn't ask for your past. Behind him, the cabin had been patched up, solar panels, replaced radio, fixed some warmth, finally restored. Inside, Reyes sat at a small wooden table, typing furiously on a laptop, eyes locked to the screen. Tessa was on the porch, legs up, blanket draped over her shoulders, a mug of tea pressed to her lips. Shadow lay at her feet, content and still. They had made it. But survival wasn't the same as peace. The world had changed, just not the way Noah thought it would. Minx's broadcast went viral within the hour. Millions watched. Dozens of countries reacted. Protesters filled streets. Governments denied. Committees were formed. Arrests made. And yet the very heart of the machine kept turning. Slower, cautious, but intact. Levington disappeared. Some claimed he died in the Pale House blast. Others believed he fled to a country without extradition. Maybe he was buried in a grave under an alias. Or maybe he was still watching, waiting, reshaping the rules from behind a new curtain. It didn't matter, because now the curtain had holes. Noah had spent the last month fielding encrypted messages from people who'd thought they were alone. Whistleblowers, journalists, veterans, survivors, people who had seen things and now finally had somewhere to speak. He hadn't planned to become a symbol, but symbols weren't chosen. They were born in blood silence and the refusal to stay either. Tessa joined him in the clearing, sipping her tea. She looked better. Not healed, but stitched back together piece by piece. "You okay?" she asked softly. Noah nodded. "Today, yeah." She looked out over the tree line. "Sometimes I still hear the hallway. That place, the voices, I know." She glanced up at him. "Do they stop?" "No," he said. "But they get quieter. And then you realize something. What that the ghosts didn't leave us. We just learned to live louder than their silence." She smiled at that, weak but real. Back inside, Reyes called out, "It's up!" They stepped in. The laptop screen displayed a live countdown. Another leak was set to drop compiled data from Pale House's secondary servers. Victim identities, financial links, more faces, more names. The final wound. Noah sat beside her. "You ready for this one?" Reyes asked. "Not really," he admitted. "But that's not the point." Reyes leaned back, stretching. "You know, when Redford started all this, he didn't believe it would fix anything. He just thought the world deserved to know. Whatever happened next, that was the people's choice." "And what do you think?" Noah asked. "I think we pulled the pin," she said. "Now we watch where it rolls." The countdown hit 0. The feed went live. Across the world, headlines exploded again. But this time it wasn't outrage that flooded in first. It was grief. Stories emerged. Sons and daughters of the disappeared. Old files proving assassinations that had been ruled suicides. Payments made in exchange for silence. Even recordings of Redford, his own testimony left behind, preserved confessional. His voice came through the speakers low and tired. "I'm not trying to save the country. I just want it to stop breaking people and burying the pieces." Tessa covered her mouth. Reyes stared at the screen. Noah sat still. They didn't speak until the recording ended. Then Reyes asked, "So what now? We rebuild," Noah said. "Rebuild what? Ourselves," he answered. "We stopped looking for the perfect version of justice. We found the truth and we carried it. That's what matters." Later that night, Noah walked back outside. The stars had come out sharp and clean across the sky. He thought of Redford, of the gas station, of the first time he saw Shadow in the rubble eyes burning with the same pain Noah carried in his chest. He thought of all the choices he could have made run, hide, forget. But instead, he stayed, fought, bled. And now he wasn't the same man who arrived in Rosedale, a broken veteran running from ghosts. He was the man who finally stopped. Noah reached into his coat and pulled out the dog tag Redford had left him. He held it in his fist, then bent down beside a small stone where they'd buried what little could be recovered from Pale House. A marker. Not for Redford. Not even for the victims. But for the truth. He placed the tag there. Tessa walked up beside him, silent. In her hand she held a folded piece of paper, a letter Redford had written but never sent. It was addressed to her. She placed it beneath the stone, too. No words. Just presence. That was enough. As the wind picked up, Shadow let out a low growl, not aggressive, not afraid, just aware. Reyes stepped out of the cabin and nodded toward the horizon. "Minx called," she said. "There's a hearing in D.C. They want testimony." "You going?" Tessa asked. Reyes looked at Noah. "I'm not the face they want," she said. "But you might be." Noah stood brushing snow off his knees. "I don't want to be anyone's hero," he said. "Then don't be," Reyes replied. "Just tell the truth. That's all we ever had." Noah glanced at the grave, then the stars, then his sister. "I'll go," he said, and after Reyes asked. He smiled faintly. "We live." This is the end of the story, but the truth never ends. It waits always for someone to stop running and turn around, and say, "Enough. Enough hiding. Enough silence." Because justice isn't clean. It's not noble. It's just what remains when the lies are gone and someone is still standing. Noah stood. So would others. And that was the beginning.